Welcome to another edition of the Destinations Podcast. I'm so excited to talk to Andrea today, Andrea Bazoin. You've seen her before, but in this context, we're going to talk a little bit about clarity and how someone who comes from this liminal world, this cross-cultural world, this cultural in-between, might have to think through, where am I going and what do I want to do, whether it's career or life, etc. So we're going to talk to Andrea about the clarity that she's gained in the last few years and her journey to get where she is now. So excited. Hello.
Hello, my friend.
How are you?
So great.
I was telling her earlier too, I'm loving this color. This color is fantastic, and I don't know that you all can see it, but her eyes are just like, are they green?
They're hazel.
Okay, because they look yellow on the bottom and brown on top and green on the sides right now. They're absolutely beautiful.
Look, even my eyes are liminal.
I love that.
Brown, no. Green,
love
no.
That. Yeah, brown by itself
Hazel.
is boring, though. But I must say I like mine. Anyway. So tell us, I'm really excited to talk about this because I've been there with you. You know, we've done segments, you're a columnist for Cultures. We've done segments talking about when we go to the south of France and what you were wanting to do with your career and where you want to be and the things that you love and things that excite you. So what have you come to now?
Yeah, well, us being friends as well as colleagues, I think you've heard all the, oh God, what am I doing with my life stories. I mean, it's been about 4 solid years
of really thinking it through.
Yeah.
Yes.
Really thinking it through. So just to give some context, I went to school I was thinking about all the times in my life that I was in this moment of learning about a different possibility. So the first time I learned about a different possibility was when I was in college. I went to school for international business because that's what my cousin did. So I was aware of that, right? It's like you only are aware of, you only know what you know,
only
right?
know what you've seen.
And
only know what you know. Yes.
What you've been exposed to. So I did international business because that seemed like a cool possibility. And then I had a class with a professor who made me aware that it was a Latin American studies class. And he said, oh, but you can major in this. You can what? Like that's amazing. Like I at that time I had not gone to Chile yet. I was desperate to, touch the culture from my mother. My mother's from Chile, my dad's from Nebraska. And so that was so exciting. I went to, so I ended up transferring to University of Texas at Austin for their Latin American Studies program. And then fast forward, I'm working in my job at a nonprofit in Bellevue, Nebraska. At the Latino Center of the Midlands is what it's called now. And I was helping students in a high school, primarily Latino student body of this high school, with whatever they needed to be successful in school. And one of the programs that we had to offer them was the scholarship program at Bellevue University. So I went to work there and then became aware that, you can actually make a career at a university. Again, not something, even though I went to a university, I saw people working there, but it just, sometimes things just don't click. And so I learned that you can have this career. And so I went to get a master's degree in higher ed administration. So another time, fast forward again, 13 years into my career, I'm working, at Colorado State University, which is where we met, and was just starting to feel out of alignment with my role because I got into the field trying to help first generation and low income students to get to college. And with the rising student loan debt, and I was just seeing so many students being saddled with huge debt and not necessarily sure what they wanted. And I just was starting to feel out of integrity with that positioning. And about that time, I was trying to help my mom, who is a social worker, and was struggling with technology at work to the point where she took an early retirement because it was just all too stressful. But really, she quit her job because she couldn't. She was just overwhelmed with technology. And so I ended up, that sparked the idea for my business. So I quit my job, I quit my career in higher ed administration to start a business helping older adults with technology in the home. So that was good until that was 2016. Then 2019, I was already not sure. I was sort of successful. It was going okay, but I was still nowhere near what I had made before I left my job. And then COVID hit, right? And that was like, I couldn't help people in homes at all. This was pre everyone knows about Zoom, right? The people that I was helping, they did not know about Zoom. And so I really was stuck. I was on unemployment for, I think, 9 months. And so here I was. I'm a, 40-something woman, a master's degree, plenty of experience, plenty to give, plenty to offer, and really feeling stuck. I didn't know, I couldn't really go backwards into my business. That seemed to be, that door was kind of closing. I didn't know what was forward. I didn't want to go back to higher education. So I was really lost. And that started from 2019 until this 2023, this last year. For 4 years, I struggled, not knowing, I had all these assets and I had passions, but really just feeling like an 18-year-old going, what do I want to be when I grow up?
You talk about midlife. So it's literally like you talk about being an 18-year-old. It's like that again at midlife. Yeah.
And we only live the life once, right? So everything we do is for the first time. And so I'm for the first time becoming a middle-aged woman and understanding what midlife is. And for me anyway, it has absolutely felt like that, like a new start, except that you have all the experience and all the knowledge and wisdom.
Right.
And all the passion and fire. I know for me, I feel, again, like that 18-year-old going, it's not a daunting thought to be like, oh, so many more years of work. Right. Like, I have so much more to give, right? I have so much more to offer, but I just didn't know what it was. So I have a phrase that has guided my life probably the last, I would say, 8 years, and it really came in handy in the last 4, which is follow the next sparkling crumb and the path begins to light up. What that means is you may not know where you want to go, but you need to pay attention to those moments or those people or those scenarios or situations where you go, and you just light up, right? That like sparkle comes. You go, oh, I love that. Or, oh, that person's so great. Or that experience was wonderful. You have to pay attention and kind of catalog them somewhere in your brain to create a little bit of a path. Mm-hmm. And so in those 4 years, I actually wrote down a list of all the things I did to try to answer this question, what do I want to be in the next stage, right? So some of those things were some of the obvious, like just talking to trusted friends and family without the shame of, I never thought, how do I say this? I didn't pretend like I had it all figured out at any point. Mm-hmm. I was very vulnerable to say, I don't know what I'm doing. Right, I don't know what I want to do next.
Well, what's the point? I've never understood fake it till you make it. I'm like, that's just too stressful. I don't know right now.
Right. I just don't know right now, and that's right. Okay. But I do think there's a huge pressure to appear like you know what you're doing, to fake it till you make it, like act confident or all these things. And there just comes a point where that's not helpful. That's not going to be the reason. I think the reason it's not helpful is because if people think you have it all figured out, then they're like, oh, you got it. You don't need me.
They don't help you.
They don't help you, right? And so
because for whatever reason, I actually think it's a TCK thing. My entire life, people are like, oh, you look so confident. And I'm like, I'm not trying to look like I'm literally just sitting here.
Right.
But you're right. Then it's like when you need help, you got this. I'm like, but I'm telling you that I don't.
Right.
Can you please help?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think just being able to say to people, I don't know, and here's what I'm thinking about. I mean, I would offer anything I could. I wasn't even like, get me this opportunity. Like, here's what I'm more or less thinking. So people could come, and they did. People would say, well, what about this? And what about that? And, sometimes it would work out. So another thing is just active self-development. So I was taking like professional development courses, personal development. I was taking about like dream building and then about how to, craft your resume, all kinds of stuff just to stay focused on like be ready, be prepared when that opportunity came. So did that. I also documented just my ideas and my journey. So I had like a Google Doc where if I had those aha moments or these, ideas, I would just throw them messily into this document or just capture them somehow. I had a folder called exploration and it was just stuff. It was like jobs that looked interesting or people or, articles, anything that sparked that interest or that light.
It's like I don't want to say a low level, but kind of like a low key vision board.
Yeah.
Because these things all sparked you. They weren't fire yet, which is kind of what you put on your vision board, but they were little sparks that could turn into fire.
Absolutely. Well, and you have to have something to work with. So if you just wait for the fire only and disregard all the sparks, you're just not ever going to get there. You got to have something, the kindling, right? You need the little bits to work with. So that's what I was collecting my kindling, you know? I like the fire metaphor. I'm going off of it. I'm working with you. The other thing is I kept working. So I held on to my consultancy. So even though I had unemployment, I was trying to find a job, couldn't get a job, couldn't even find an interview, that was humble pie. Like that was just with my experience, with my degree, with all these things, I think part of it is...
You did have opportunities come to you, but to your point, they weren't necessarily the correct opportunities. Right. So just because a job is offered to you or you have them available to you, I mean, you don't want to walk into that and feel miserable or still have to struggle through where am I going and what am I doing?
Yeah, you make a really good point. Actually, I should be clear to say, because I had enough experience under my belt and because I know myself and I'm just not a person who can be satisfied with the job. Yes. I've had that experience before.
I get it. Yeah.
Some people can be. Some people are like, I want to, get the paycheck, come home and forget about my work. Yep. And kudos to them. That's wonderful. We need people who are just okay to do whatever they're going to do. But I knew that wasn't going to work for me. And so you're right. I could have probably tried to find any job, but I was looking for the soul match.
Job, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or even at least something close, even if it wasn't the perfect one, but at least in the realm.
And to give a caveat to people too, you have a very supportive husband who's absolutely amazing. And I don't bring that up because, usually I would want to gloss over something like that because I find that when women are in business or if you have a career, the first thing when I was married... It was funny. For me, when I was married, the first thing people would say, oh, you get to do this because you're husband. I'm like, no, I have to pay my part of the bills, right? And so I don't want to jump to it like, oh, you got to do this because he's supportive. But I think that is key to make sure that in your life you have that support wherever it comes from. If it's your family, meaning your parents or your siblings or friends, because there's so many times that especially women in business or people of color in business try to do things that are outside of the norm or say things like, oh, I'm trying to find that soul match that you're told, you're crazy or you need to get a job or whatever the case may be. So to have someone who's in your corner and just looking out for you, I think is exponential. Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right. And I've said this multiple times. If I had been a single mother without any support, you better believe I would have gotten the first job I could have possibly found. So you're absolutely right. And I know that this has been a journey of immense privilege to be able to even seek out what's aligned. And yeah, my husband, Greg, I'll give him a shout out, has been so supportive, even through my own self-talk of feeling like I'm not contributing enough financially. So part of this journey actually has been this beautiful, how do I say this? I have come to value on a personal level, not just for other people, but for me, what I bring to our family and to our home economics. Right?
1,000%.
And so that's not something I used to work when my kid was born and little and up until he was, I think, 6, I worked full time. We were 2-income full-time household.
Which
and
is shocking to
the
me.
Daycare and all the things. And that was, I was doing my part, right? I was an equal provider and all these things. And so from the time I quit in 2016 until, really 2023, a lot gelled for me. And I could have talked to some other stay-at-home mom and said, of course your work is valuable. Of course what you do is important. But I need to do more. Like that wouldn't work for me. I wouldn't feel like I was doing enough. I would never say that to them. And now I'm realizing like...
But you're harder on yourself.
Right. And so since I've lived it now and since I really I'm able to be so present for my family and for my son, for our son, I know it from experience how valuable that work is at home.
Super valuable. It's actually when I was with my ex-husband for over 2 decades. And it's interesting. I'm divorced now for that very reason. It's to me, I was like, okay, we're going to have a kid. I'm going to stay home. He's like, you are absolutely going to hate being at home. I'm like, you don't get to say that for me. And the difference with me too is kind of like we're getting to with you. I know where I want to go. I know I have a position and skills of what I can do at home, which I thought was very valuable, that you could be able to nurture this family and really, because to me, I was like, wait, I'm supposed to have 5 jobs? Wait a second. So I'm supposed to take care of you, take care of the house, take care of children, take care of myself, and work? You must be smoking crack.
That's right.
Are you
right.
absolutely kidding me?
Yeah.
But in his mind, and probably many people who knew me when I was younger, it probably seemed like, oh no, you definitely have to have the career. But the value of being at home, oh my gosh.
And so what's wonderful about this journey for me has been much like our liminal identity. I have found a way to have this liminal career in a sense where I continue to work.
I love it.
I work part-time, and I work on my own terms,
Yes.
and I take client work. So a little bit more backstory. I pivoted my business during COVID. I eventually pivoted that technology education business to be a small business development business. So I was helping other business owners with their websites and marketing and branding and all these things because I had to do it for myself. I learned that skill.
Yeah.
But it still wasn't quite aligned. So back to the list of the things I did, I continued to work, and that kept me fresh, kept my skills sharp, right? So I have family members who
Kept you confident.
right, and networked, just kept me in the game. Just generally, I was still there. There's no gap in my resume, which I know for a lot of women, especially men too, but for women who leave the workforce to focus on their families, it becomes this huge uphill battle to get back into the workforce anywhere close to the level that you operated before. And I knew that, I observed it, so I didn't want any gaps. So, and it was good for me. It was good for me to stay busy, even through the journey. So kept working.
You started to say you have family members who...
Oh, sorry, who quit completely their jobs and found it actually impossible for them to go back to, tried to go back to work, had went from, I have a cousin who had a high level position at a corporate company and went back to working like at an administrative professional level, kind of front office work, and even that proved to be too challenging.
Wow.
And also not fulfilling, and so she's staying home. And I think there is some grief there because she was a pretty high level employee and proud of it, really invested in her career. So I know she's happy with being a parent and all that she's contributed to her children, but
There's some, when you have a drive,
right,
and your kids are getting older, it's like, okay, where does that drive go now?
right. So I just feel really grateful to have found sort of a middle path where I could continue to work, not full time, as I've navigated my own heart's desires. So lastly, practicing self-care, and just I think on those many, 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 many moments where I felt like a failure or like I'm wasting time, I'm not contributing enough financially, all the doubts, right? Those were the times. Self-care for me wasn't bubble baths. It was like time with friends, or just allowing myself time to cry or grieve or go for coffee or just let it be okay to not be busy all the time. Cooking for our family, like really relishing what I was still contributing.
You've really been digging into plant-based.
Oh yes, that's part of the journey. Yeah, I guess I better let me fast forward a little bit. And then I stayed really, just as another point of advice, stayed really active on LinkedIn. So that I think LinkedIn is just magic.
It is absolute magic.
So here's where I'll fast forward. By this 2023 summer, I was still just, I don't know what I'm doing. I was in France, mostly spending time with our son because somebody had to watch him. He's out of school, so I'm mostly with him. French. And learning French. And came across some information about the number one thing that we can do to support the planet, which, I'm a very eco-conscious person. I have been since a young teenager, and have deeply wanted to get involved with sustainability, but didn't know what that could look like. I'm not a scientist. I just had no idea what that could be. And I love food and I love culture. And I learned that wasting less food, or reducing food waste and eating more plants. Those are the number one things we can be doing. So basically being conscientious around our food. That's at the top of the list of most impactful things we can do as individuals for the climate. And when I learned that, it just opened up again, like when I learned about Latin American studies, when I learned about career in, higher ed, when I came to be aware of these things, it opens up a new cache of possibilities, right? Yeah. And so I thought, okay, I can be involved with that. I can be involved with helping people waste less food, eat more plants. And so from that moment, I just started hustling on LinkedIn. So I was just, because I had no network, I had no experience in this area, no network in this area. That 18-year-old coming into a total career pivot, right? This is new, but I have experience in other things. So I started emailing people on LinkedIn. Hi, my name is Andrea. We've never met, but I see this great article you just wrote. Would you be open to a conversation about XYZ? And about half the people said yes. I probably sent out at least 30 different requests for people in different industries that were tangential to what I was interested in. And just to learn, I wanted to learn what's out there. So probably the 30th one, this was early December. I sent the same kind of a thing to a woman, Eva Goulburn. She's the founder of Littlefoot Ventures. And she's had 15 plus years experience in the food waste industry. She's the founder of Refed, which is a huge nonprofit related to reducing food waste. Delightful person. So I, emailed her for a lot of people, in some ways it was like a stretch. Like, I don't know if they'll get back with me. She did. And later she said the LinkedIn, she got back with me, and she said later, the LinkedIn gods have always been good to me. So she said, I always get these people, reaching out that are really great. So we had a conversation. She said, I'm going to call your bluff. What would you think about working for me? And I was just over the moon. I was so thrilled. So that's what's happening now is I have this contract with Littlefoot Ventures. We are creating, so I'm using my education background and my experience with curriculum development and instructional design. Thank you. to create this course that she's going to be launching. And we'll see after that. And I also have, I think because of this huge journey, I've created my own platform, which is called Ecotarian Living. Mm-hmm. That's my Instagram. Up until now, it's been more focused on using plants in the form of essential oils and some cooking as well. But I've got big plans of my own for a program I'm going to be launching hopefully summer of 2024 related to an intentional community around how can we have a lifestyle that is in harmony with the planet. So I'm so thrilled that I have this team with Littlefoot Ventures. I deeply wanted to work in a team. Working by myself was good for some reasons, but
it's tough
not
after
others.
A while.
Yeah, it can be a little lonely, and not just lonely, but I find that I want somebody to poke holes in my ideas. I want somebody to help me build something better than I could have even imagined, because you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
And if my career path has shown us anything, it's that you just don't know what you don't know. But if somebody else can give you a bit of information, like, things can explode.
Spark.
Yeah, it's that spark
that creates the fire.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That is absolutely fantastic. I love how everything came full circle. And even the fact that you're designing curricula, yes, that comes from your educational background, but you also did that with your technology business as well. You had a course that you designed. So thank you so much. I think all the details that you gave can help so many people who might be struggling with what are they going to do next? Where are we going to go next? Not just in career, but even with self, to figure out, how am I going to stay the course? How do I sit in the question until the answers come?
No matter how long it takes.
No matter how long it takes. It's difficult. I've been there. We talked on another episode of me taking 20 years to really develop the messaging for cultures that I think finally has solidified. And the beauty is in that journey, as you could see in your path, right? And you pick up all these things along the way and you end up using them in the end. So thank you so much for sharing your clarity.
Thank you for asking.
And just as you are blooming and living in color, we look forward to you living in full color.